We appreciate you guys joining us. It is Tuesday at 7. And if we were to date stamp this, this is July 2024. And we're with Ben, and we're here to revisit the topic of the Splice Cream Truck and what you're doing, because last time we were here, we really discovered that you have a lot of irons in the fire with your creations and your music and your analog, and we want to take a look at that again today. But thanks for having us back.
Thank you for having me back.
Yeah. So if you guys remember, we were together. I lose track. Was it a year ago? Over a year ago.
If it hasn't been a year, it's been close. It might have been over a year.
Yeah, I think it was just over a year.
Yeah, time flies.
Yeah, but the reason why we're back is the Tuesday 7, we lost like 4 interviews. And the Splice Cream Truck and our interview with Ben was one that was lost. And as soon as I was realized it was lost, I'm like, listen, we have to find a time and come back. But we appreciate you guys joining us as well. And when we start off, what we want to do is encourage you to share. In the very bottom left-hand side of your screen, there's a share button or maybe an arrow button. And when you press that arrow button, you can share it. And Facebook will actually prompt you. It'll say, do you want to share it to a friend? Do you want to share it to a group? Or share to your friends list? But your shares are the most important thing, because it helps spread the story and the art, for our community. But when you share, we know it. And next week, your name will be put in a drawing, and you'll get an opportunity to. Should we describe what will happen?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So if your name is drawn, we'll pick one winner. If your name is drawn, what will happen?
You will get a chance to record straight to vinyl and get your own record, a little 45 that you can take home with you, with anything you want on there. If you want to record some music, if you want to do some poetry, some spoken word, or just some words of encouragement to anyone, or anything you want to do, we'll make sure that we get that to you.
And we're going to be talking about how that happens, because I never heard of a record straight to vinyl before we met. Do you know of any other projects, any other creatives that are doing what you've done?
There are some amazing folks out there that do record direct to vinyl, which is it's a very old practice. And I had some amazing friends that actually moved from Cleveland to, I believe, Bristol, Virginia, I think. My friends Dave and Clint, and they have well-made music, and they are just amazing folks. But what I do is a little different. I have a record lathe on an ice cream truck, and I drive community to community, neighborhood to neighborhood, and record stories from the community members and anybody who has anything to say. And the reason why I do this is because most of the time they don't know that they either have a voice that people want to hear, or they're just not certain of themselves. And I go and I'm like, hey, just talk to me. And most of the time, this is the first time that someone has engaged them in that way. And I've heard some of the most amazing stories, also some of the most heartbreaking stories. But it has been such a relief for them, and a blessing to have a release. So I record them, and then in exchange for that interview, as I call it, that you gave me, you get ice cream. So I take those stories and I compile them into like a program that would be like StoryCorps, if you're familiar with that, on NPR, where there's music, narration, and whatever took place that day. So it could be, I'm over in the Buckeye neighborhood, so this is the Buckeye story. And a lot of times, I go to places. Most of the time, I go to places that a lot of the other documenters or corporations don't go to, and frankly are probably not interested in going to. And that draws me in because I have a natural connection to that, and I make sure to get whatever they're talking about, and then go back to these corporations or these these whatever they are, and they're like, well, we don't know what's going on, and I kind of like, well, here it is, straight from the mouth of babes, as they say in the Bible.
Well, I'll tell you what. I think that you and I share similar passions, right? Because I think it's great to sit down with an artist, a fine artist, a musician, somebody who is bringing people together through stories, and that's it seems that we're doing very much the same thing. I'm doing with some artists. You're going into communities and helping to do that as with probably many different things in mind. One is to record stories, and sometimes I remember from last time you had shared some of the highlights, and I'm gonna get there, but I think that the important part is that people don't miss that sometimes you're bringing healing to communities by asking people to reflect and share their stories, and that is something that I think that what I don't want is I don't want anybody to miss that, because that's a very important piece. We appreciate you guys joining. Drake is behind the camera, and we'll pause every once in a while, and if you have a question, we'll go ahead and take those live, and if those questions come in on the recorded, we have access to that as well and can get back to that. I want to pause, and then I want to dive in back into the Splice Cream Truck and what you have coming on this weekend. But if you joined us last week, we met with Tom McGallis, and we met down at his studio. He's a phenomenal artist. He's a storyteller himself, has great comic. He worked for MTV. He does puppeteering, worked for Nickelodeon, worked for MMS, and he does phenomenal painting. But if you shared that video last week, Tom McGallis, that video, your name is in the stat. So, Ben, if you would just pick one winner out of there, and the winner is going to actually win a piece of Tom McGallis' artwork.
Okay, ready?
Yeah, we're ready.
All right, the winner is.
You're ready. Lauren Najee.
Hey, Lauren, I do. I do. Lauren was around when I got the grant for the Splice Cream Truck.
Yeah. Lauren, thank you for sharing. And maybe, that's probably actually a perfect segue. So tell us there, because somewhere along the line, Splice Cream Truck idea happened. Take us to the idea to putting rubber on the roads and doing what you're doing now.
The idea came to me as I describe it. The download came to me while I was working for a company here in Solon, Find a Way, and they make these audiobooks called Playaways. They were actually purchased by Spotify. I was putting audio on the books, and I got this idea. I got this download, and it was to have a vehicle that could go to the different communities and record people that needed to be recorded. Now, I'm not going to lie and say that I would not have wanted to drive an ice cream truck anyway, because that's who I am. But that specific thing fit with that, and I drew the concept on the spot, and I have that somewhere in here. And I kid you not, 2 or so weeks later, this initiative came to Cleveland called the Ballot Box Project, and that was in Collinwood, where I met Lauren. And we had to actually campaign to get the grant. So I came up with a whole campaign, and we went to the schools in Collinwood. We went to the neighborhoods, and we had a parade in the neighborhood. It was amazing how everyone came together. Thankfully, I got the votes and received the grant. I did a the deepest internet search ever outside of dark web territory, and looked for this specific for an ice cream truck, and I found it a couple of miles away from Cleveland in Helena, Montana. And
wait, how short of a trip is Helena, Montana from Cleveland?
I think if I remember right, it is like 1,400 miles at least. I feel like it might be longer than that, but that's a couple more miles than, Detroit or something. But so I got the grant, and I took a bus trip out there. Keep in mind, this was sight unseen. There were no pictures of the truck, only a description. And that's just the way that I roll. When I get these downloads, it always worked out. So I'm like, all right, cool.
One-way bus ticket to Montana.
Yes.
And that's a long ride.
Yes. So it ended up being Greyhound to Jefferson to a old Astro van that actually brought me into town. I was up for 2 days straight. It was an amazingly ridiculous trip there. It was fear and loathing. It was.
I imagine because that ice cream truck was not on the corner of a main intersection. Right?
Exactly. So yeah, I get there. I've been up. I can't sleep the whole night. So I'm up again. I go to the lady that was selling the truck. Originally, she wanted to make it a mobile Chinese food truck. She divorced her husband and said, "I don't want the truck." So it was like, "Hey, come get it." I saw it, and I'm like, "Yes, this is it." It was actually a mail truck. It still had all of the insignia on it, and it had a flat tire. And the gentleman that helped kind of facilitate things put like a fix-a-flat on the tire, and we filled it up, and we all talked and became friends. I still know them to this day, Gang Hui and Jeremy. And I went to the local Walmart, still haven't slept, and had them do like a check on the tire, and I can't remember if I got it patched or if I got it a new tire. And then I hit the road 2 days back.
So you jump in a vehicle, fix a flat, get a patch, whatever you need to do, and then you turn around and you drive that all the way back into Cleveland.
Absolutely. And it was the craziest trip of my life. Craziest trip. I'm so grateful for it.
Take us, and here's a question, and I believe that I have a good grasp when you say a download. Describe that.
So a download for me would be in a similar fashion as if you're on your computer or your phone or your tablet. I differentiate that from an idea because an idea I feel like comes from within, from things that I'm familiar with or anyone is familiar with, and then you're kind of, as we discussed, kind of, Frankensteining things together and then putting this out. A download for me is a complete mission and a completed thing that is now sitting on my hard drive, my brain, and it's it's like a .exe file, and you double click it, and then it starts. So it was kind of one of those, your steps are ordered at this point. Yeah. And it was just for me to double click on it.
From the time to the download to the time you were driving that truck back from Montana, what was that? Was it months? Was it years?
A month. It was 2 weeks from the time that I got the download, and then the time that
you won the grant.
Yeah.
And then the time that you actually drove to Montana.
Yeah, like it was just back to back. Like, and I never once questioned it. Never once.
Yeah. I mean, I love that passion, and I understand what you're talking about. And there's gonna be a lot of folks out here that understand that too, because we might not have had described it as a download before, but we understand the concept. We understand that concept. You guys may have seen the Splice cream truck. Ice cream truck converted to Splice cream truck. Talk about that. So you brought it back, and it still had the male insignia.
Yes.
Where was the transformation of your vehicle?
So when I got back, I started thinking about ideas about how I wanted it to appear. And again, once again, a download versus an idea. So I have the download. It has the recording equipment. This is where I'm going. Now it's like, how do you want to present it? And that's where I was like, okay, well, now I'm going to present some ideas. And I knew that I love video games, and I love like old like blaxploitation movies and all kinds of just funny stuff from like the 60s and 70s. But my favorite, one of my favorite video games of all time is Fallout, and I knew that this truck was needed to be like a Fallout like vehicle, like retro, futuristic, post-apocalyptic, and the art that a friend and I came up with, who was amazing, James. Thank you so much. But I had these ideas, and I'm like, this is what it is, and it just came together, and I couldn't be happier with it. And then it naturally got this like patina, and it started really looking like a
how you want it to look,
absolutely,
right?
Yes.
The way that I first was introduced to your project and your art and your passion was I was on Brown Hoist one time, and I was walking in, and it was either starting to rain or whatever, and all I remember was the truck and the sounds coming out of it, and like it was an image and an experience that still sticks with me because it was that striking. And so the download, as well as the vision of what the Splice cream truck was going to look like, it sticks with me, and I know it sticks with a lot of folks who've either driven past it or seen it out and cutting vinyl, in process. What we want to do is remind folks, because if you haven't joined in, when you hit that share button, we know it, and next week we're going to draw a winner. And if you are drawn, and you have the opportunity to connect with Ben and step up to the Splice cream truck and cut a 45, right? A live, again, by spoken word, maybe a performance. I remember last time we talked, I asked you about a few memorable recordings, interviews, recordings. Give us a couple things that, as you recount a few of the memorable ones over the years.
The two that stick out for me the most are on opposite ends of the spectrum. One is an extremely happy experience, and the other was a very sad one. So the one that was, I'll actually this time think last time I said the happy one first. I'm going to go with the saddest one first.
Yeah.
I went to an event in the central neighborhood of Cleveland, and I believe it was a church event, and I'm in the parking lot, and the kids are coming, and they're kind of skeptical, and they're kind of like, what is this? And, after a while, they're kind of like, oh, you've got ice cream. Cool, give me the ice cream. And I'm like, hey, you want to, talk without, being like, hey, kid, you want to talk? But they started seeing, the microphone. I have 2 microphones that I usually use, and, everything is live and it's ready to go. And they started inquiring about it. So one of the kids was like, what is this? And I told him about what I did. He's like, can I talk? I'm like, of course. And he started talking, and after that, his friends were like, oh, I want to do it too. And a whole bunch of kids started recording. And what I remember from that experience is that probably all of the kids, their stories, and let me say that I don't usually give prompts to people. I just let them come up, and sometimes they're like, I don't know what to say, I don't have anything to say, and I'm like, sometimes I'll be like, hey, think about today, think about yesterday, think about the future, just think of anything, without me giving any prompts. All of the kids were like, if I could do one thing, it would be to bring a family member back that was killed, that was shot. My uncle, my aunt, my mom, my brother, my sister. And it was just a recurring theme, and it was just I was so like shaken that day. But the thing that also I remembered most about it is how happy they were to actually let that out. Some of them, it was the first time they even talked about it. Because, we talked about it, and then they would be like, I've never said that before. And then it kind of, I could tell, I give them ice cream, and then they're just kind of like, if it looked like a weight was lifted off. And that experience just stuck with me, that all those kids, and, some of them were like 8 or 9 years old. And the first thing they say is, well, if I could do something, it would be, but the fact that I was able to record them and let them speak, I've seen some of those kids at my other events, and they remember me, and I remember them. Some of them, I'm like, hey, I did this, that was 6 or 7 years ago. They're like, taller than me now. Yeah. So just the fact that, again, just allowing them to talk and giving them some ice cream, they were, I feel like, that I was able to help them. And I felt like, like a vessel of I don't know, hope. And now I talk to them all the time, it's like, I don't know if that was what that did for them exactly, but I feel like it was just a positive thing, out of something that was, out of the negativity that they've experienced. So that experience really, sticks out to me.
It sticks out. And I would imagine that all those kids, as they're sharing the story, they probably didn't know that, the boy or the girl or that young teen in front of them or behind them had a similar experience.
Exactly.
Loss of a loved one due to violence.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it connected folks too.
Absolutely.
And connected you to them, which, who'd have ever known?
And that, in case no one knows, that is the splice part, splicing us together.
Yeah.
That's what happens, by just talking, you connect with people.
Yeah. share with us, because last time I remember, one of the happier stories.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And you know what? That one is really a happy story too. I mean, I hate the fact that was
and
what
I thought
connected
as I
us.
was talking, yes, I was like, actually, it felt good.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it is a happy thing.
Happy ending, but the connection is the connector is a sad reason to be connected, but the fact that it connected is certainly a positive thing. Yeah, take us to the other story.
So the other story was from Juneteenth. It was the inaugural Juneteenth holiday when it was first time it was introduced, and there was a Juneteenth festival.
So it's a nice day. Your Splice cream truck is
beautiful,
out.
Beautiful day. Beautiful day. And I remember there was a lady who was walking around with who I found out was her husband. And she kept kind of eyeing the truck and walking around, and then she would leave. And then I'd see her coming back, and then she'd leave. And eventually her husband came to the truck and was like, kind of, what do you do? And I talked about it, and he was like, I'm trying to get my wife to come over here. So eventually, I will say that I am an introvert. I am a super introvert, and I sometimes have extreme social anxiety. But when I see someone who is interested, then I'm like, okay, hey, I see you. You should come over here. You should. Let's do this. Then I can get extroverted for them. So I eventually got her over here, and she started talking about herself. Again, I gave no prompts. It was Juneteenth.
You hit the live button, and it starts to go, right?
It was going, yeah. And she started talking, and she's like, it turns out that she was an opera singer, and she had been depressed for a while, and she hadn't belted out a single note in I want to say like 20 years or something like that. And she's like, yeah, it just brought me joy, and we talked about it and all the places that she had toured and nationally and internationally. And I'm just like, that's amazing. And she's like, really, that's something that just, I then asked her a few questions like, would you ever do it again? And she's like, I would love to, but I haven't done it in so long. And I'm like, well, would you like to sing? And she immediately was like, no, I haven't done it in so long. And it was like same thing that happened before, where she's just kind of like, okay, that was my story, and okay, I'm gonna leave. And then she's like, no. She decided she was going to sing. And when I tell you that the first note that she belted out, the people around, it was so powerful. The people around there turned, and honestly, I think they could probably hear it near the stage because there's music and stuff playing, but it came, oh my gosh, it came from her belly, and it brought all these people around, and she started one of the most beautiful things I've ever heard. And I was standing right as close as we are, and I could tell, again, this is something, I could feel that like weight lifting off as she's doing it. I'm just sitting here, so people are gathering around like, her husband is in the background. He's not even standing close to her because he didn't want to disrupt anything.
Just step back.
Yeah, he was in the background and just over there, just like amazed.
Yeah.
So we talk about it. She cries. I'm crying because I'm like, I was so beautiful, and she's just like, this is, yeah. So give her the record. First of all, she didn't even believe that. She's like, what? I was like, oh yeah, this is you.
You recorded it on vinyl.
I recorded on vinyl, yes. And I'm sitting there I'm not even an engineer. I am a composer. I am a producer. I am not an engineer. I get the stuff as close as I can. But then I became an engineer because she's doing it live, and I'm like, okay, back it up, bring it up. And I was able to capture it. And I handed it to her, and she's like, I'm like, it's you, it's your record. She's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I recorded you. This is yours. You can put it on your record player. She's like, yeah. So she was just amazed and blown away. She thanked me. We talked. She left. Later on, her husband comes up. He's got a tear coming down, and he's like, thank you so much. She hadn't sang anything, not hummed anything, not even singing other people's songs for like 20 years. And he shook my hand and gave me a hug and was like, thank you. Yeah, and then again, I'm like, so it was one of the greatest things I've ever experienced. It was like a live concert and a reunion, a comeback. And I just feel so blessed to be able to experience all these things with people.
Yeah. We are here with Ben, and he was awarded a grant. Out to Montana, brings back an old truck and created the Splice Cream truck, which splices communities and people together through their stories. And you're capturing great performances, kind of, and opening up, in a case of that woman, right? Kind of opening up that soul, and what she was really probably created to do, which was to sing, right? And all of a sudden after not singing for 20 years, she realized her purpose again. And she wouldn't have done that without the Splice Cream truck. Last time we interviewed, our interview was lost, and we went around that Splice Cream truck. And there's some photos there, but the Splice Cream truck is not here, because tell us where that Splice Cream truck is at and where we might have an opportunity to see it live if we'd like to.
So my the Splice Cream truck is actually in East Cleveland now. There is... I've been working with a good friend who runs an organization called Loiter East Cleveland, and I am working with him. And right now, Loiter East Cleveland is going through some things, and I just want to take a minute to talk about that. There was a cafe that was coming to East Cleveland, or as they're trying to refer to it now as Circle East. And it was another community member-led initiative.
I mean,
just something that is, kind of for us, by us. Yeah. Like, hey, we're here in East Cleveland. We're going to bring food here. They had a little market in the cafe because, of course, it's a bit of a food desert over there. And these are foods that are, by the way, these foods are grown in East Cleveland. This is locally grown stuff that is being and given right back in the community, right back to the community. Yeah. And the cafe right now has been shut down. And there is a lawsuit being put out right now to rectify that situation. I met Ismail Samad, who is the owner of Loiter East Cleveland, through the community events, Splice Cream Truck. And we hit it off, and I actually had another Splice Cream project that is at the cafe, and that is the Splice booth. where you just come and tell your story. You pick up an old telephone, like a payphone, go in the booth, close the door, and talk about whatever you want. And just seeing the impact that the idea of the cafe, because it hadn't opened yet, from the people we talked to, the people that saw it, how big it was getting. This is one of those things that we have to fight for to keep, because this is just like the Splice cream truck. This is something that people can relate to and can come and commune and be together. And it's something that is from a community member, and it's helping the community. So I just wanted to talk about that a little bit.
It sounds to me like that's a community download.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Like it's set in place. It's intended to happen.
Yes.
And barriers, have to be worked through.
Absolutely.
For the Splice cream truck.
Yes.
I know that thing is on wheels and will be driving. Is it already where you're going to open up, or do you drive it to the Saturday, right?
Yes. It is operational. I after a bit of a hiatus, I got old Splice back on the road, and I had the first event of the year that I did was the Woodmere, the Village of Woodmere Juneteenth Festival. That was the first event that I had done in a long time. I enjoyed it, but that got things warmed back up, and now I am going to be having a concert, a Splice Cream concert. It's actually called the Splice Cream Spliced Team Dream Concert Series, and it features the Splice Cream truck and some of my super friends. It's the first of 3 in the series. This particular one is called Blurds on the Block. If you're not familiar with what a blurred is, it's a black nerd, and me and most of my friends are that. So I have my good friend Dave McKee, also known as Vyric's Dream Corps. Another great friend of mine, Miguel Mercado Jr., also known as Crazy 8 the Great, and another great friend of mine, Sam Supreme. And they will be performing at Rev Love Urban Farm, and that's in the Buckeye neighborhood, 123rd and Superior, and Imperial, excuse me.
We'll put those after we're done recording.
Okay.
We'll go back there and put a couple things there so people
cool.
will know
Good.
when,
Yeah.
where,
Yeah.
to catch that. That sounds exciting.
I'm driving the truck over there. The truck goes anywhere. I have been everywhere in Cleveland, and yes, the truck, the download for the truck for the project is that it was the truck, so that it can go where it needs to go.
I'll tell you what, we are really excited to continue to follow where you're going. We're going to encourage you to go ahead and share this if you joined in here after we talked about sharing the first time. Again, if you share it, your name gets put in a drawing, and next week we're going to pull a name. And if your name is pulled, you get the opportunity to cut, to lift that microphone in your mouth or to an instrument, tell a story, bring out some spoken word, maybe a performance, and then cut a vinyl 45 of that time.
Yes.
If you were here just for the Splice cream truck, right, and then you might go, I wasn't aware that there might be some extra stuff. And what I mean by extra stuff is, you talked earlier about the fact that you're a composer, and I think you've described it to me as, like last time, low tech, analog. Like everybody else is going this way, and you're staying old school. Take us there as we kind of pivot over to your sounds, and because you've been making music long before the Splice cream truck was even downloaded, right?
Correct.
Take us there.
All right. So I've been doing music since I was about 14 years old. So a couple of years ago. I grew up watching TV shows like Airwolf and all kinds of different shows that were that were heavily theme songed, as I call it, to where if you don't remember anything about the show, you remember the theme song. And growing up, I was always intrigued by that. What I found out about most of those things is the instruments that they use to create them, and I found out about analog. And I grew up with a father who really was into making sure that he grabbed stuff that he knew I'd be interested in. So my dad would give me things like computers, Commodore 64, which I still have to this day, functional, and I would just tinker. There were times where I would tear it up, of course, but I eventually learned how to put it back together. And that experience has never left me. So my draw to analog is the tangible nature of it, that the physical aspect of actually having something in your hand, being able to, for it to be like a push-pull type thing. And so yes, I am fully immersed in the analog world, tape machines, vinyl, of course, and anything that is that has knobs and diodes and transistors and vacuum tubes, especially. Yeah.
I know, based upon where we've talked prior, and you play several instruments too, right? And so, like, talk to us about, and you know what? I'm not pulling this out of my hat, but we share an affinity for an artist, Prince.
Oh yes.
Right, and
yes.
so we share that. And I know that there's a lot of folks that share that the love for the music that Prince Rogers Nelson made. But when I walk in here, it kind of feels Prince-like, right? Because Prince recorded a bunch of different instruments and vocals, and he brought that together and really continued to direct the path in his entire music career, because he was able to do everything. And I kind of get the sense that they're similar.
Absolutely, yeah. As you said, Prince is probably one of my biggest musical influences, and yes, him doing everything just gave him the opportunity to really, if he got a download by doing it all himself, it could really, that was the printout of that picture that was downloaded. So I discovered that, and I started, as I do with everything, tinkering around with a lot of instruments and listening to the different layers of songs, and like, oh, okay, well, I could probably do that, or I could probably do that. And then I think there was a point where I wanted something now, I want to make it, so I figured it out. And so it ended up being, picking up a whole bunch of different things. And even I found out that even if you're not the best at it, if you can get the picture of it correct, it doesn't matter, So I'm like, oh, I can do this. So yeah, there are instruments all around. There are noisemakers. There are things that were converted into instruments, and I just, yeah. And going back to the analog thing, having your hands on all of that it's just, you feel the energy from it. So I'm like, ooh, what does this instrument feel like? Oh, let me try this. So yeah.
But would it be too forward for me to ask you to share with us, one or a few of your favorite? Because the fact that there's a harpsichord here in your house is like, I mean, that's a whole different level to me.
Absolutely, yes. So the harpsichord is definitely one of my favorite instruments. It has such a unique sound, and that's a pre-piano piano. And it has that I guess it could have that gothic sound. I'm also a big fan of the Castlevania series, that music. So that is sometimes I picture myself, playing with a full moon.
I hear it. And the bass, I mean, when I hear harpsichord, your bass word harp, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's a whole different sound to that.
Yeah, it's just exactly.
Are you going to take this?
You guys want to move?
Absolutely, yeah. This is it. It's a double tier harpsichord that I actually got from CSU. They were getting rid of it, and I was like, of course I'll take it. I lugged it up to my apartment. A friend helped me get it up there where I would probably annoy the neighbors at all times of the night. But yes, this is one of my favorite pieces, along with my what I call my Beach Boys set, which is the Farfisa and the Hammond. My church organ, as it's probably more commonly used for, or jazz, or everything. So those are probably my two favorite instruments.
You were saying that at times, sometimes hitting the keys does not provide the sound you're going for, so you actually go in and pluck the strings, right?
So if you I don't know, it's that sounds alright, but if you want more of a plucky sound, sound effects.
Completely different.
Yeah, so I think I treat this the same way I treat everything. It was made for a single purpose, and I make sure it multitasks.
Yeah.
So.
I absolutely love that. Your music, as you've been creating music, where does your music live?
So most of my music actually lives on reels. I don't consider myself a purist. However, I in the same way that the Splice Cream Truck is where you come out and interact. If anybody ever wants to hear my music, I'm like, hey, come on over and I'll play you a reel. And it just feels like something, a gathering piece. Yeah, so most of it is residing on a physical, on physical tape.
And I think you described to me that often your music kind of feels soundtrack or has been used for soundtrack. And talk a little bit about that as we're kind of rounding third here in our interview.
I am in love with film scores. I think obviously mine started with John Williams. Obviously, way too many. Star Wars, Superman, Indiana Jones. It goes on. Also Howard Shore, Lord of the Rings. But in my mind, everything is a soundtrack, so it always comes out that way. No matter what genre I work with, it is always thematic and dramatic. So I naturally lean towards that because The scores are meant to tell a story, and I am all about stories.
We have a lot of folks here in our community that are music artists that are that share some of the same gifts. Midnight Syndicate once says they create a soundtrack for a movie that doesn't exist yet.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's probably. And are you picturing
absolutely
things as you're creating? You're like, this is what is happening in this movie that hasn't been.
100%. I actually have written some little short movies based off of music that I've done. So yeah, absolutely. I could see it. The titles, whatever I name it, is in relation to that. The picture that comes to my mind, and that's another thing about these scores. It exercises my imagination. It's these things are like just like a good movie you can watch, and you were feeling bad. I know I can watch this movie. I would make these soundtracks for myself, like self-soothing, and listen to these like they were a movie, and feel good, yeah.
We also had one other guest, Teresa Rose, who actually is a phenomenal musician. She does a lot of original work. She also sings for Wish You Were Here. She does a great Gig in the Sky, so she's got that great voice. But when we talked with her, she said that she doesn't think in terms of words or pictures. And I think in terms of pictures, I'm visual. She said she thinks and her mind works in sounds. Is that like when things, is it visual? Like as a musician, as a composer, as a soundtrack creator, are you thinking in terms of sounds, or are you thinking in terms of pictures, or is it something else?
Sounds are first. Sounds create the picture. So yes, all around me, I hear music, and that's even the air conditioner. You can hear like, oh, that's a bed for this. I don't know, this string line. That's the bed of it. That sound, and then I'll walk and be inspired. There's times when I'm like meditating and I hear like hums outside, and I'm like, oh, I hear the melody. So yeah, it starts with the sound, and the sound creates the picture.
Yeah.
So, and I'm always walking around. Ask any of my friends. Everything is I'll hear something and then just start doing a melody from that. Like I hear it. I hear the train. I hear the water dripping. So yeah, sound is like the basis for the rest of it.
Yeah. Until she said that, until you've revealed that, like that's not how my brain works. I'm visual. I get the picture, and then I bring the rest of it around. But to hear that yours starts with sound, is just kind of testament that we creatives, approach the creative process, with different inspirations. Is there anything else that you want to kind of point us to? I know last time we talked about you doing a podcast and you were, spinning a lot of different plates. What are some of the other projects that you're currently working on, or perhaps you just have on a back burner and maybe in the next year or so you might pull it back to a front burner that we should know about?
Well, I am still working on my podcast. It's called Cereal and Other Material, and it is a podcast based around cereal, where we kind of fellowship around your childhood favorite cereal. We eat it, and then we talk about what was it like growing up. So I like to bring in a diverse set of folks to just talk about from their beginning to their current being, and crunch some cereal. And I record that. Surprisingly, I recorded straight to VHS. I have a VHS camera, and I kind of Frankensteined a Panavision lens to it, and it's just this funky little setup, and it's surprisingly lo-fi. What? And yeah, we just kind of talk through for about, depending on the length of the episode, 30 to 45 minutes, just over cereal. Yeah.
I love that.
And it's so much fun. It brings back so many memories. Some people forgot about things, and as we're talking about it, a lot of my memories are based around sounds, smells, and taste. So cereal, I can instantly remember where I was when I was eating Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cereal, or Fruity Pebbles, or Cocoa Pebbles, or something like that. So that's how we connect on that. I also have at the Brown Hoist building that we talked about earlier. I have in the vault in the basement. I have what is going to be called the Cork and Wax, which is a vinyl listening lounge. You come in, you grab a record. We will have some local wines. You can grab that. If you have a laptop or a book, you come in and you sit at a table and you lounge, and that is it. Have some wine or not. Read a book, bring your laptop, or just listen to the record, whatever you want to do, as long as you're chilling. So those are the main things I'm working on at this moment. And of course, more Splice Cream Truck.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you guys joining us. Drake for holding the camera. Ben, I knew this. We're going to be back together at some point. Absolutely. Because as your story continues to evolve, or as you say, as other downloads occur, we want to keep an eye on that journey as well. But we appreciate you sharing your story. Again, remember, guys, share, because the way that the value that you can bring, besides commenting and being inspired, is to hit that share button just so other folks can hear the story, and so that perhaps the whole reason that the Splice Cream Truck exists can exist, right? Splicing communities together. Ben, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we appreciate you guys joining. We'll see you next week.